Hey Facebook, it's Audra R Upchurch. Oh, let me move my mic over a little bit so you can hear me. Hey Facebook, it's Audra R Upchurch, and I am pretty excited to come before you today and talk about some things that I learned from my own daughter about motherhood. Now, I know for those of you that know me, you're like, wait a minute. Did your daughter have a baby and we didn't know? No, did not happen. So you can relax. But there are some really important lessons that she shared with me on this journey and that I really wanted to come before tonight and talk with you about. So stick around, whether you are a mother, whether you are a father, whether you are just a friend, because I believe that these lessons transcend relationships, and that's why I'm so excited to bring them to you. Now, for those of you that were watching the Fierce Freedom Summit, my conference that just occurred a few weeks ago, I know you're like, wait a minute, Audra, your daughter was there, everything was great. I saw the pictures, you had an amazing time, and we did. And I'm so glad my daughter was here to share that with me. But many of you may not realize our relationship didn't start off that way. It required a lot of work for us to get where we are right now. So, you know, whether you're in a beautiful relationship with your mom or your daughter, whether you struggle communicating with the people that you love the most, or whether you feel that you do your best communicating and they just don't get you, what I'm going to share tonight may help. You know, growing up as a homeless teenager in Brooklyn, to say I lacked self-worth is an understatement. You know, my family, though we're all good now, back then, for whatever their reasons were, they didn't take me in. And it affected how I saw myself and how I valued myself. I mean, can anybody relate? So these lessons that I learned, you know, from my daughter were hard learned. I didn't have a mother to instruct me, to guide me, to point me in the right direction. And so because of that, by the age of 17, I was somebody's mommy. So while it may seem that some of the things that I'm going to share with you, everybody should know, what I've come to find out is a lot of us don't know them. And that's why I'm bringing them before you tonight. So as you join in, let me know who you are and where you're watching from. Hey, Vanessa, thank you for... You can't hear me? Oh, man. What is that about? Let me check on my phone and see what's going on before I unplug anything. No, you sure can't. What is that about? Thank you so much, Vanessa, for letting me know. I may have to pop back on. That's so weird. Because I was just live a few moments ago. No, I can hear it. So try checking your volume, Vanessa. Try checking your volume on your phone, because when I went to my cell phone, I could hear it. So check that out and let me know. But when I go to my phone, Vanessa, I can... Okay, so Pamela Caldwell says she can hear me. Awesome. Okay, Vanessa, so that sounds like that might be on your end, so you might want to check your volume or go out and come back in, okay? And thanks for letting me know, Pamela. I appreciate it. So, and Pamela from Panama City, appreciate it. So I really want to come in tonight and talk with you guys about 3 things that I learned from my daughter about motherhood. And, you know, I'm going to own my stuff and talk to you about it. So recently we launched my 3rd anthology on Chaney Mama. And in that book, we talked about issues folks don't usually like to address with their mom. I mean, how many of you know we'll talk about daddy issues all day long, right? We'll talk about how our father wasn't there for us, or how we didn't know our dad, or how our relationships were broken. And we'll talk about that full disclosure. But when it comes to talking about issues with our mothers, most of us feel like we're in bondage. Like if we say it, we are in big trouble, right? And more mercy, if she hears us saying it, we're in even bigger trouble. So when it comes to dealing with broken relationships with our mothers, frustrations or disappointments we've had with them, most of us keep it to ourselves. Unfortunately, when we do that, we open the door for negative feelings to grow and manifest. And a lot of times those things show themselves in the relationships we have with others, in particular our own children. And that was me. My mom suffered with mental illness, and by the age of 15, I was homeless. And people would make me feel as if I wasn't entitled to be disappointed that I had no one. They would say things to me like, girl, look, your mom did the best she could. But I was still homeless, and I was still 15, and I still didn't have an adult in my corner to protect me. So didn't I have a right to feel abandoned or unloved? So I struggled so much with dealing and processing my own emotions when it came to my own mom, that when it came to me communicating with my daughter, man, listen, I ain't have a clue. And unfortunately, our relationship really experienced some bumps and bruises along the way. And thankfully, I came to the realization that there were some things I needed to learn. And this is what I want to share with you today. 3 lessons I learned from my daughter about motherhood. And so the first thing I want to share with you is this. For many of you, just like me, who were maybe young moms, I had my daughter when I was 20, and I had my son at 17. Can you relate? Any young moms watching? Any teenager mothers watching? If you have, you know where I'm going with this. Hey, Michelle Jones, thank you for popping in also. You know, sometimes you just don't know. And it's okay. You know, as mothers, a lot of times we don't want to admit what we don't know. A lot of times people will tell you, girl, you'll figure it out. How many of you know that's not really true? Sometimes you don't know, and sometimes you won't just figure it out. So that's the first lesson I learned, was sometimes you just don't know. But see, here's the thing. You have to admit you don't know and be willing to ask someone so you can figure it out. Especially in the minority community, in the Black community, we tend to have these cute little sayings. You know, no one knows you like no one knows your children like you, or you know what's best, you're the mother. And unfortunately, a lot of us believe that garbage. You know, now don't get me wrong. Yes, there are some things being a mother that will be intuitive, that will just come to you because they're your children and you love them. But there are other things that you need to be taught. And in order for you to learn those things, you have to be willing to admit that you just don't know. Yeah, Pamela said she heard that too many times. And unfortunately, many of us have. And we believe it. And because we do, our children suffer. You know, I think one of the greatest things we can admit to ourselves and our children is that we don't know. It will allow them to see you as being a human being, a real person. And maybe, as they grow older, it'll make them feel more comfortable with being truthful to you and getting advice from you, because they'll see you as a real person and not this fake superwoman that we all want to pretend we are. So that's the first thing I learned from my daughter about motherhood, was it's okay to admit I don't know. And then find the right answer from someone and ask for help. The second thing I learned about motherhood from my daughter is just because your kids seem okay, they come in the house, hey mom, and they smile and everything seems like it's fine, it doesn't mean they are. You know, me not having certain skills, and I'll admit it, I didn't have certain coping skills because I was on my own at 15. There were a lot of things that I missed in my development from not having a mother to guide me and instruct me. But then I turned around and had these babies, right? Well, for me, I would just look at my daughter and go, oh, she's fine. She doesn't seem to be bothered. And because of that, when me and my ex-husband divorced, I didn't put her in therapy. When she was acting out in school, went to therapy maybe once or twice, didn't stick with it because she seems fine. How many of us look at our children on the surface and go, oh, they look okay, when we know these kids are facing some really tough issues that no one should be dealing with alone? I mean, if we're honest with ourselves, come on, y'all. Think about how many situations you've experienced in your youth that you struggled trying to figure out how to navigate, and your parents had no idea you were going through it. So what makes you think your kids are any different? Hey, Chanel, thank you for joining in, honey. So just because your kids look fine on the outside, they're not visibly showing their scars or their frustration, doesn't mean it's all good on the inside. And that stuff will manifest in them later, just like your stuff manifested later. As single mothers, and I was one, and Pamela watching is also one. It's difficult because our time is tight. So trying to find time for therapy and to take care of this one and that one and do all the things that are weighing on us to accomplish can be frustrating. So I guess sometimes it's easier just to kind of brush it off and want to assume that our kids are coping well. But if you don't take anything else from this broadcast, I want you to take this away. That trauma doesn't disappear on its own. So if your kids are struggling with a separation, if your child's other parent is not present, if they're being bullied at school, if they're struggling with weight loss issues, if their confidence is not high, all of those things have to be addressed, and they don't disappear on their own. So just because they look good on the outside and they're smiling when they see you, doesn't mean they're smiling on the inside. So that's the second thing I learned from my daughter about motherhood is just because your kids look good doesn't mean they feel good. Now, the third thing I learned about motherhood from my daughter, and this is the big one, and if you haven't shared this broadcast yet, you need to right now, because this is something that spans beyond motherhood, beyond sisterhood, beyond friendships. So go ahead and share this out. The third thing I learned from my daughter about motherhood is we've got to own our mistakes. That was huge for me. A year ago, I thought I lost my daughter. And like any of you watching, right, I went into prayer. I'm like, oh, Lord, if you help me find her, Lord, if I find her, I promise this and I promise that, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Like any mother would, right? And thankfully, we found her. And I was determined to keep my promises, not just for her sake before my own. And in doing that, I had to own my stuff and recognize that as hard as I tried to do and be the best mom I could to her, I didn't know. There were just things I didn't know, and I had to own it. There were decisions I made that affected her negatively, and I had to own it. There were choices that I could have done differently, and I didn't, and I had to own it. There were times when I wasn't present, and I should have been, and I had to own it. Now, here's the thing. For a lot of women, especially single moms, it's easy for us to get with our girlfriends who are going to pacify us in our decisions. Because your friends love you, and they don't want to see you disappointed, and they don't want to see you sad. So when you question decisions you make in your parenting, your friends will go, well, hey, honey, girl, you did the best you could. That's all anybody can ask, honey. The problem with doing that, your friends mean well because they love you. But when you respond to your children in that manner of, well, look, I did the best I could. I know that might have hurt your feelings, but, oh, I know I should have been there, but look, that was the best I knew how to do. It minimalizes their experience. It negates all that they've gone through. In essence, you tell them, yeah, I made this decision. It may have hurt you, but you don't matter because I did the best I could. And we're better than that. Somebody put in the comments, we're better than that. We are better than that. You know, the greatest thing I could have done in my relationship with my daughter is own my choices. I wish somebody had said this to me 20 years ago. Audra, own your stuff. You got married a man when your daughter was 7 years old, and you didn't think twice about how it was going to affect her. How many single mothers have done that? We get in relationships and think, I love him. They'll love him too. Or, yeah, I'm ready to get out of this state. It's time for me to move. And you move 2-3 states away, never considering how it's going to affect that child or your children. Come on now, I'm not alone in this. So the moment I owned my own choices, it gave my daughter the freedom to express how she felt and deal with her stuff. So see, now the buck stops here. Because understand something. If I don't own it and acknowledge that to her, that I made some choices that were not great, where does that give her the freedom to deal with the aftermath? Because she had to live through the aftermath, y'all. When we as parents make decisions, our kids have to live through the aftermath of it. Come on, y'all. Let's own it. Yes, Vanessa, we are better than that. Yes, Pamela, we are better than that. Yes, Mia, we are better than that. We are better than that. And does it hurt owning your choices? Heck yeah, it hurts. Does it hurt to know that a decision I made hurt my child? And I have to look her in the eye and own it? Yes, it hurts. It hurts more than I can even say. But what would hurt me even more is to know that a poor choice that I made had to be carried through to my children, my children's children, and my children's children. That is not the legacy I'm leaving behind. That is not the legacy I'm leaving behind. I want to leave a legacy of strength, of vulnerability, of authenticity. I want to leave a legacy that my children and my children's children can be proud of. And in order for that to happen, I got to own my stuff. Mothers, we are not perfect. Fathers, we are not perfect. Friends are not perfect. We all make mistakes. We all make them. And you know what? We're going to make some more. Hello, somebody. But what allows us to still walk out with our head held high in spite of our mistakes is the ability to own them. Is the ability to own them. So the next time you want to brush something under the carpet, right? Or you want to say, well, you know what? Those are my kids. I know them. You know, it's okay. Or, you know, I have the answer. I must be right. I'm the mother. Or, you know, they're my kids. They'll be fine. If something was wrong, I would know. They don't need therapy. They don't need to talk to anyone. They'll be just fine. Or, I did the best I could. Come back to my fan page, Authentic Audra, and hit the play button and watch this video. And then remind yourself that there are lessons your children can teach you about motherhood, about friendship, and about just being an amazing human being. If you truly want to leave a legacy where everyone is free. I am Audra Upchurch, founder of Freedom to Thrive, author of Chaney Mama, my newest book, and Amazon #1 bestseller. And I'm so excited to share with you these lessons that I've learned. And I'm more excited to know that at least one of you, or if not more of you, are going to apply them so you too can thrive. You can make a choice. Have a great night. Love you guys. Bye.